Yo, what is up, everybody out there in YouTube land? I'm back with another collection update video. I hope you guys have been enjoying the renaissance of me talking on YouTube. Gonna jump right into it. We finished up the M's in the CD collection, and we're going to jump into the N's. If you're new here, my name is Justin. I am a musician, and I talk about music. I for the past several years have been going through my CD collection A to Z and telling you guys stories about CDs and music and whatnot. So if you're new, thanks for watching. If you're old, thanks for watching. First, we are listening to Drawn and Quartered. Drawn and Quartered is a death metal band from the Pacific Northwest. I can't remember if they're Seattle or Portland or somewhere in between. Love Drawn and Quartered. This is Hell Infernal Darkness. This is the only CD of theirs I own, and this was the one that I got into them when this came out. And no, I take that back. I have Merciless Hammer of Lucifer somewhere. It's not on my shelf. When I just went and pulled this, it was the only one that's sitting there. But Drawn and Quartered fucking rules. I have they have a brand new album that just came out that I don't have yet. It came out on Nuclear Winter. But the record before that one that came out, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I have that on vinyl. And it's killer. Every album is fucking sick. They just play really, really sick, morbid, unholy death metal. After listening to them for 20 plus years, what year did this come out? 05s? This is probably 20 years old. I got to see them. They played here in Atlanta at the Mass Destruction Festival, which is a festival put on by some good friends of mine every year. And Drawn and Quartered played in 2024. No, in 2023. They played in 2023. And finally got to see them. They were great. It was so killer. And I had one of those like really validating moments. Was my band, Father Befouled, we played the next night. And during our set, I looked out, and the guitar player from Drawn and Quartered was fucking raging. And it was really cool. And then after the set, he came up to me and told me how much of a fan he was of my band, and how much he was looking forward to seeing us and how great we were. And I was like, dude, I've been listening to your band for 20 years, and I felt the same way. You guys were killer. So it was like we really had this like metal bro moment about loving each other's bands. So shout out to Kelly, and shout out Drawn and Quartered. Fucking sick. Okay, so we're going to start the ends, and a little bit of a controversial one. Up first here, I have a lot. Shit, I have a whole lot of Mistium CDs. So I was a pretty big Mistium fan a long time ago. When I first really started getting into black metal, well, I got into black metal 97, somewhere in there, 98. And then around like 02, 03, it really clicked for me. And for a while, that was all I listened to, all I wanted to hear, all that I looked up, all that I followed was black metal. And that's around the time Mistium started to really, make waves. The first thing I ever got from them was the self-titled EP. Now, this is a re-release of it. That was done many years after the fact. I want to say this originally came out in like 01 or 2000, something like that. 2003. Yeah, 2003. And then this re-release is 05. It was only a couple years later. So this was my introduction to them, and I really, really, really liked it. This version has got one sheet information thing that you used to shove into your CD promos. Anyway, Mistium was just, at the time, it was just grim, kind of Norse core style American black metal. Kind of doing what, Dark Throne and Gorgoroth and the Scandinavian bands were doing in the 90s. And but it was this young guy, Blake, from Chicago, and he always had a revolving lineup, even to this day. In particular, I liked this release because it has a Judas Iscariot cover, Gaze Upon Heaven in Flames. And Judas Iscariot is my absolute favorite black metal band of all time. Judas Iscariot is when black metal really, really like clicked with me. Now, I am in no way a Mistium fan these days. I had really fell off before they even signed to Century Media and put out the more psychedelic tinged black metal stuff. And then I know that he's active again now. I follow Blake on Instagram, which I didn't realize I did until he randomly started posting again recently. And I know that he's got some Mistium stuff that's about to come out, and they did an album a couple years ago, and all under my radar. I didn't know. Now, so I don't remember the order of these at all, but I've got Instinct Decay, and if I remember correctly, this was the one that people really, really like started to notice. Mistium. Eulogy 4. This is the Total Holocaust Records version. Shout out if you know Total Holocaust. They were such a cult label. I loved their shit back then. I have another copy of Eulogy 4. This is the Southern Lord re-release. First Attacks demos. Sorry, that ring light. I gotta have the light on me so you can see what's going on, but it creates such a glare on these. This was the demos, 2000, 2001, on Regimental and Battle Command. Battle Command Records was Blake's label. So, and that's where it stops with me, was these, these 6 CDs. And I always really, really liked this stuff. It was just grim, cold, black and white black metal. Now, at the time, I was friendly with Blake. We would communicate. We would email back and forth. We're the same age. He's a little younger than I am. And then I saw them, I don't know, 05 or 06, 04, somewhere in there. They did a tour. They toured with Goat Whore and Averse Saphira. They played in Jacksonville, and Blake put me on the guest list, so I got to get in for free and got to say hey to him and chat for a minute. And then they toured a couple years later with Angel Corpse and Watain and Negative Plane, like early Negative Plane, and they played here in Atlanta. That first tour, I saw them in Jacksonville, Florida, and then I saw them in Atlanta. And again, me and Blake were in contact and put me on the guest list and got to say hey, etc. And then I kind of just, I got less interested in what they were doing. And then Blake did all the shit that Blake did. I'm not getting into all of that. I largely stayed silent during the decade of his heroin use and ripping people off and etc. And then the Ascension Monuments media shit. And basically it was just like, I didn't have a dog in the fight. And it's the age old of like, I used to know the guy. I never had a problem with him. Looks like he fucked a bunch of people over. I think now he largely seems to have his shit together. So, I mean, more power to him, I guess. But I have not listened to this stuff in a long time. And I'm real eager to go back and check out Mistium because it's been years. And especially, I want to see how much I like the self-titled because I used to really, 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 really like this one. And I want to say this came out on a 10-inch, and I'd love to have that 10-inch LP version. Anyway, let's see. Next, I have one album by Naglfar, Sheol. Naglfar plays shiny pants black metal. There they are wearing shiny black pants. Just, kind of heavy-handed, more well-produced black metal from the early 2000s. This came out 02, I think. And it's just, more commercial, a little more accessible black metal when it really started to come out of the underground, 20-plus years ago. But this is a really good album. This was my introduction to Naglfar. I have a soft spot for it. I really, really like it. I want to say this was the last one with Jens Ryden on vocals. Now their vocalist is this guy, Christopher Olivius. He moved from bass to vocals. I really like this album. And funny story, 100 years ago I had a PlayStation. No, I had an Xbox. You could do this on Xbox. And I used to play Tony Hawk a lot. I mean, you could rip CDs to your Xbox and listen to them instead of like the soundtrack to the game. And I ripped this and played Tony Hawk for 1,000 hours with Naglfar as my music. So I always associate this album with playing Xbox. Anyway, it's really good. I know that they have other records, like Vitra came before this one, and I have listened to that. I don't own it. I don't know it real well. I know this record backwards and forwards, and I have no idea what they've done since. I missed an opportunity to see them. We were on tour 5 or 6 years ago. We were in Europe. We played a festival, and they were headlining the night we were there, but we had to leave because our shuttle was taking us to the hotel like as they were starting, so I missed them. Next, Naked Whipper, Pain Streaks. Naked Whipper is a famous kind of brutal, black grind. You don't see a lot of black metal grind stuff, but that's basically what Naked Whipper is. It's there's 30 songs on this version, and I'm sure this is a bootleg. Yeah, there's not the booklet doesn't even fold. It's just one sheet. Sado grind metal. Naked Whipper is Sado grind metal. So this is a famous underground release. They are German, and they play, really nasty, like brutal, blackened grind metal. I like it. I don't know it real well. I don't worship it the way some people do. If I remember correctly, this version sounds like absolute shit, and it's just a really, really bad rip of the audio. But I don't have a better one to compare it to. The guy, it's one man, he just put out a new album after 20 years or something. 30 years. This came out in this stuff, Pain Streaks was recorded, the album Pain Streaks was recorded in 94. So 30 years later, he's done a new record, and I want to say it's because he was in prison for a long time. Don't know a lot about Naked Whipper. I always liked this, but then when I ended up buying it, this one sounds like shit. I need to throw it on and get reacquainted with it. Okay. Next, Napalm Death and Coalesce split in Tongues We Speak. I bought this because of the Coalesce side when it came out. You all know who Napalm Death is. Coalesce was a really noisy, kind of like angular, discordant, hardcore band from Kansas City. And I love Coalesce. I have all of their stuff. I have a lot of their vinyl. Love Coalesce. They were really, really unique with what they did. They had a unique sound, very unique vocalist. I love their vocals. And then this was one of those things that when it was advertised coming out, it was like death metal and hardcore, kind of like melding of the minds. Even though sonically, both of these bands play well off of each other. I'm not the biggest Napalm Death fan. I like Scum. I like Lee Dorian era Napalm Death. I like really grindy, noisy, fucking punk-styled Napalm Death. I'm not the biggest fan of Barney's vocals. I'm not a fan of their politics these days. But I like these songs. And it's just because I listen to them so much. There's only 4 songs. There's 1 song from each band. And they alternate. So it's not like 2 from one and 2 from the other. It's every other song. And this came out in 1997. And I remember, waiting to go to the store to buy this. And it's great. I love both sides of it. I love both bands' songs on here. But really not being much of a Napalm Death fan, this is my favorite Napalm Death material. But good release. Next, we have Narroth. So another band, when I was really getting deep into black metal 25-ish years ago, Narroth is a band that I came across that I was really, really drawn to. Only after these releases years later, it came out that like, hey, this guy's kind of weird. He made up his history, 10 years of this band didn't exist like he said it did. He's kind of odd. Narroth is a German black metal band. Their sound is kind of all over the place. He kind of has these eras. So I have 2 releases on CD. I have a couple of tapes, and I have some LPs as well. But this is Herbstaled, I don't know that. And that's the main dude, Ash Canwolf. His name is Renee. But it's just, this particular release is just kind of grim, kind of melancholic, medievally sounding black metal. And it was really good. Kind of, long in the tooth. I want to say that, like, introduction, even though it's an introduction, is like 8 or 10 minutes long. But it was good. It was, and this is definitely one of those bands that I have a soft spot for, because I like them. They were a gateway for me. This album, Rasluka Part 2, which I want to say that Rasluka Part 2 came out first and Part 1 came out second. This is only 4 songs, and it's real long, slow, like plodding, melodic black metal that I just was really, really, really drawn to. When I started getting into black metal, with me it was like the longer the better. If the songs can be 15 or 20 minutes long, that's what I want. I love that stuff where you just got locked into a trance with like Burzum, like Philosophim. I love those long trancing, songs. And I really liked this material. This is probably my favorite material. Or they have an album that's something in German, and it's about the rain, and it starts with rain falling, and it's really long songs. I have that one on vinyl. And then he's done some more stuff that's a little more like Norsecore sounding, that's a little more, some of his stuff reminds me of Shooter. Shooter's a lot more violent though. And then his thematic imagery got kind of weird. He introduced this like military slant to it. He has this weird obsession with American military. And I want to say that these days, Canwolf, Ash, Renee, whatever name he wants to go by, he lives in America and he's an over-the-road truck driver. So, if you check out his Facebook page, he dresses like a cowboy. But I really like this old Narroth stuff. Okay, next we have Necro Butcher. Necro Butcher was this really, really noisy black and grind stuff from South America. I want to say that they are from Peru, Argentina. It may be Brazil. Minas Gerais. Yeah, they're Brazilian. And yeah, this was famously, this style of black metal from South America was called deathcore. Years before deathcore as we know it existed. Also, shout out Brazil. Shout out my boys in Fossilization. Love you guys. But this is just really, really fucking noisy, wild, fucking raw black grind. And it's rough. It's real rough. But it's also like, it has this, quality to it. It has this like charm to it. But schizophrenic, noisy torment. That's a good way of putting it. And I really like this release. I like how Yosuke took the old demo stuff and had it all scanned and added it to the modern CD release. There's a history of the band. It dates like mid-80s, 86, 87. But just really, really wild shit. There's a flyer picture from back then. But I like it. I like this shit a lot. No thrash, only deathcore. I hate that genre title got snaked. But this is great stuff. So, their drummer, Cristiano Passos, Cranium, I'm friends with him on Facebook. And based on his persona on Facebook now, 35 years later, 40 years later, you would never think that he was in a band like this called Necro Butcher. But every so often he'll post stuff about this. It's really cool. And he still drums. He plays in like some kind of traditional like Brazilian like pop cover stuff now or something. I don't know. Look him up. But love this stuff. I have the LP too. And it's just really, really wild shit. Necro Butcher. And what's this called? Oh, it's called Schizophrenic Noisy Torment. Okay, so got a few more. Necrocultus. This is Encircling the Mysterious Necro Revelation Supreme Occult One, the Underworld Abhorrence. So Necrocultus is a death metal band from Mexico. And I did all of the layout and art. I didn't do the art. Mortus did the art, but I did all of the like design and all this cut and paste shit for the layout years and years ago. This came out on Razorback. It was one of the last things that Razorback did when they were still active. Of course, Razorback in their heyday is known for like Gore Grind and Death Grind and shit, Impetigo and Frightmare and shit like that, and Blood Freak and Engorged. Loved Razorback stuff. Billy, that operated Razorback, is one of my best friends. I love Billy. We talk probably almost daily. Me and Billy are chatting about fucking horror bullshit. Love Billy to death. And I did this release for him. I did this layout for him 2013, so 12 years ago. But this is just sick Mexican death metal. Love this stuff. I'm actually going to throw this on and listen to it soon. But Necrocultus. Okay. Got a few more I'm going to get through, but they are good ones. I have 2 CDs by the famed Necrophagia. Necrophagia is another band that when I was... If you watch my last video, I went on and on and on about Mortician and how much I love Mortician and horror movies. Well, not long after I discovered Mortician, I discovered Necrophagia. And it was right around that time that this album came out, Holocaust de la Mort. When did it... Like 98, maybe? Engineered 98. So yeah, it probably came out 98. Maybe 99 by the time it came out. This is a 2022 re-release on this nice digibook thing. I also have the LP, I have the original LP, which took me years to track that fucking thing down. But Necrophagia, very famous, famous for being one of the first death metal bands. If you have the conversation, what was the first death metal album? Seven Churches. Have you ever watched the J-Dog video? Sup, Devils? Possessed, Seven Churches. Well, Necrophagia was right behind them. I got into them on this record, though. I love the early stuff. I've actually listened to that a lot more lately. But Holocaust de la Mort, man, this record is so good. There's nothing like it. It's not as much of a death metal record as it's like this really unhinged kind of sludgy thrash record. Kind of sounds like, it reminds me like akin to Nunslaughter. Nunslaughter is a death metal band, but they play devil metal. They're a little different. This Nunslaughter sounds like Nunslaughter, and Necrophagia sounds like Necrophagia. But of course, this is all horror themed. It's really sick. It's really gross. This album, famously, the guitar player right here, Mr. Anton Crowley, is Phil Anselmo. I know lots of people hate on Phil. They hate on Pantera. I have a soft spot for it. I have a soft spot for Phil. His guitar work on this is fucking out of this world. It is so wild. It's like you gave him a guitar and said, you explained to him what death metal was, but didn't let him hear it and asked him to write death metal songs. And I mean that in a really, really positive way. This shit rules so much. I love this album so much. Following that, this came out in 03, I think, 02 or 03, The Divine Art of Torture. Now, by the time this came out, it's a completely different lineup. It was Killjoy was the main, guy. Mirai from Psy plays keyboards in this era of the band. There's lots of keyboards on this album, and they work really, really well. They really incorporated like the evil keyboard sounds of like eerie horror keyboards into Necrophagia's style of death metal. And again, this record is fucking phenomenal. They released a couple after this one that didn't really click with me and I never bought. And then, of course, sadly, Killjoy passed away. And then recently they did that thing with unreleased stuff that's not very good. But this is great. I hate this terrible text logo, right? Like, why'd you do that? Why didn't you put the fucking Necrophagia logo on the fucking album? It's on the CD. Well, a version of it is on the CD. But, use the old Necrophagia logo, guys. Anyway, this is a great album. Divine Art of Torture. I like this one. It has members of Iskaria played on it, which wasn't he in Immortal, maybe? And international lineup, people from all over the place. Mirai, and then someone else. I want to say, who was the drummer on this album? Was it Wayne Fabra? I don't remember. Maybe not. Maybe it came after that. But a Necrophagia, another member, recently passed away. I don't remember. But this is a great record. These two and the first record, I fucking love this shit. Never got to see them, unfortunately. And they played in Atlanta a few times in the latter days of the band, and I missed them. So, last but not least, this is a wild one, and I just got this CD like a month ago after years of listening to it online and like downloaded. Necrophagist Epitaph. I remember vividly when this came out, and a buddy of mine sent it to me. I think he gave me a burned CD copy, and he was like, "You need to listen to this." And I put it in, and I'm like, "Not for me. It's way too technical. Way too many sweepy solos, and that just was not what I was wanting to hear 20 years ago. And today, that's not what I want to hear." And then I just avoided it. And then it got so popular. I had never heard Onset of Putrefaction prior to this. I was a diehard Necrophagia fan, so when another band comes along called Necrophagist, I'm like, come on, like a little too close, you know what I mean? But 4 or 5 years ago, something prompted me to go back and check this out. I read an article about it or an interview or something, and I said, let me see how that sounds today. And I instantly fell in love with it. And for as wankery and overwrought and overly technical as I thought it was 20 years ago, it's not. By today's standards, it's really, really tasteful. And aside from there being a lot of solos and stuff, the riffs on this record are just fucking fantastic. I mean, if you're not familiar, they're a technical, progressive-ish, brutal death metal band. Real heavy on the brutal death metal. They're an uber technical Suffocation, put it that way, from Germany. And this record is worth all of the hype that's been praised upon it. I love this shit. And like I said, I've been listening to it. I've had it on my phone for years now. And I have listened to it backwards and forwards so many times. And then I finally just said, I'm going to buy a copy. And I got online and bought a copy. I want to get a copy of Onset of Putrefaction. And there's famously 2 versions of that. There's one with a drum machine and there's one with the drummer from this that went back and re-recorded it. I think. But this shit rules. And then, of course, you know, they got real popular between like 05 and 08 and were touring, and they were the next big thing in death metal. And then they were like, all right, we're going to go work on our third album. And we're still waiting. It never came out. And the main dude, Muhammad, just fucking fell off the face of the earth. But, dude, every song on this fucking hits. There's not a solo where there doesn't need to be. There's not a riff that doesn't work. There's not drums that are not fucking just steamrolling you to death. It's produced well. Muhammad's vocals are really deep and guttural, but enunciated. But every song has its own identity. Stab Wound, Stillborn One, Diminished to Be, Epitaph, Only Ash Remains. They're all so fucking good. I love this record so much. And I'm really glad that I finally like pulled my head on my ass and fucking sat down with it a few years ago. So, Necrophagist. Okay, that's it. Damn, that was a quick 30 minutes. Let's talk about these. I'll have more coming up soon. I used to do kind of, aside from the CD collection, I would do different kinds of videos about new purchases, which I'll still do. And then I would do videos where I would just talk about one album. I don't know if I'm going to do much of that, if something prompts me to. But I'm trying to keep these videos succinct about the CD collection. And let's try to get through the rest of these. But thank you, everyone, for supporting me, coming back and watching the videos. And we've been and talking in the comments. And I'm having fun. And I'll see you guys again soon.